This paper is all about how a smaller player can outwit its larger rivals by continually evolving its strategy. So, in other words, it's a case of how David can stay one step ahead of Goliath.
These were very measured, very honest, ethical people entering into what was for them a new sort of arena.
For a couple of years after the initial IPA paper from 2002 to 2004, everything went pretty well because the other retailers weren't really concentrating on food on the one hand, or in the case of M&S and Sainsbury's, who are Waitrose's two natural rivals, they were going through a lot of internal problems of their own. But by 2004, which is when MCBD were appointed, there were some significant challenges on the horizon. In particular, all the other big guys of the retailing world, the Goliaths if you like, were moving into Waitrose's patch because everybody all of a sudden started to refocus on the quality of the food.
Waitrose are unusual in as much as they do have a constitution, a written constitution, and it is centred around, being ethical, being fair in your dealings with all of your suppliers, and that's the way they run their whole business. And their business is to produce a quality product at an honest price, and being fair in all your dealings while you're doing it.
We realised that there was a connection between the idea of selling fine foods with the idea of also being a company with fine principles. And that was the important breakthrough, talking about quality, not just in the sense of we are selling good food, but as being a good company to do business with.
From about 2002, it was primarily print in those days, and the reason for that was quite simple, because they just didn't have the budget to go on to TV, and we, as an agency, persuaded them that the TV advertising was the logical place to go.
We supported the television using press, where we could tell a longer story about the sort of things that Waitrose were doing in the areas of fair trade or the environment and other ethical areas. And then, of course, we carried all of this through into point of sale and the store experience itself, online, and a variety of other promotions.
The breakthrough really was when we had a TV campaign featuring free-range hens to the soundtrack of I Feel Free, which was beautifully done. And at the same time, we had a press campaign that featured free-range eggs. And we realised that there was huge synergy between the press and the TV. And it was the TV that was providing the thrust to the press being more effective.
Emotions are at the heart of a lot of our behaviour, and that's particularly true when it comes to food, on the one hand, and particularly true when it comes to shopping. We shop with our hearts as much as with our minds. So a big part of our thinking was to get people to emotionally engage with the brand and really feel closer to it and the principles that the organisation was espousing. Waitrose had lots of great true stories that we could talk about. So whether it was focusing on real-life South African farmers that we were supporting, to our policies on sustainable fishing, to compassionate farming here in the UK amongst pig farmers, we always chose a real-life, true product story involving real people that we could tell the world about.
They're Billingsgate-trained specialists, helping you choose from a wider range of sustainable fish than any other supermarket.
It's quite refreshing to work on something where you know that when you say this is the best leg of lamb, it probably is the best leg of lamb. And when we shoot the films, if you see a farmer in the field, it is the real farmer, it's the real field, and it's probably even the real cow.
Craft skills are really important in advertising generally, and particularly important in this case because we had already taken the rather unusual step of not featuring the food at all in the advertising. So we knew from day one that we would have to think of other ways to get that quality message across, and we used the best directors, the best photographers, and the best lighting and so on to really create that quality ambience around everything that we did.
If you're not going to show a beautiful picture of food, show a beautiful picture of where the food comes from. So what you'd get is this sense of tastiness from landscape and just quality of photography. So the actual ads themselves felt nice to look at and felt high production to reflect, maybe subliminally, the quality of the stuff that's on offer.
The campaign doesn't say, come to Waitrose because. It kind of says, this is what we are. Do you like that? Yes, come to us kind of thing. But they don't even bother saying come to us. They assume that once you've accepted the almost ideology of it, that people will come, and that is true. Field of dreams, build it, they will come,
Television has changed markedly as a medium over the last few years, and one of the ways that we've made use of those changes is to use interactive television, because that's a fantastic way for Waitrose to get across the stories of its support, say for South African citrus farmers, in a more detailed way, so that if you do want to find out more about the story, you can interact and find out a little bit more.
We have a very big below-the-line operation. They are very big in their direct communications. We've also used advertiser-funded programming for the Market Kitchen, which is a food program based in and around fresh produce available that week. And we thought it was an ideal sort of place for Waitrose to be seen.
Market Kitchen with Waitrose.
When they first started the campaign, it was being greeted positively. Around 30% were actually saying it made them feel better about Waitrose, which was good in itself. And that has cumulatively risen every single campaign for the last 5 years, to the extent that it's around 75% now. And every time I debriefed, after every single campaign, I said this could not carry on going up, and it did.
So what's absolutely clear is that the campaign did have a strong effect on brand image, but obviously the more important question is, did it have any actual effect on footfall? And here the data is very conclusive. Year on year transactions were up significantly, as was footfall. And when you look at the tracking data, you can trace all of this back to, or certainly a significant proportion back to, a sense in which the advertising was generating higher and higher intentions to shop. Obviously, short-term sales are only part of the picture. When you factor in the longer-term sales effects, we estimate that the television advertising, again, alone, has generated £99 million of incremental profits since the campaign began, which is a return on investment of about £5.57 for every £1 spent. Or put another way, that's about 10% almost of Waitrose's entire profits over the period due to television advertising.
So it's a great example of not short-term impact, not short-term wham-bam, buy 3 for 2 or something like that, actually very slowly being true to itself, talking about Waitrose. So talking about what Waitrose staff mean, how they react to the suppliers, how they are, and almost a kind of, and you can take that or leave it. But actually what it's done is give itself huge credibility, great belief in itself.
The 3 lessons for us were that, first of all, you can't invent an ethical marketing program. It's got to be based on the organisational fact rather than an advertising soundbite. I think secondly, it's got to be part of a long-term commitment rather than a sort of faddish chasing after fashion. And I think thirdly, you've got to have a good product at the end of the day. All the ethics in the world won't disguise the fact that you have a deficient product.